Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabad of Delmar, together with my co-host Mark Ronich of Statewide News Service and jbiztechvalley.com. And we have a very, very special guest with us today, Senator Terry Gipson. Senator, can we tell you, can I call you Terry?
Sure.
Welcome to the Jewish View.
Thank you very much.
It's so good to see you, Terry. You know, you
Thanks.
and I haven't known each other very long, so it's a getting to know you session.
Oh, great, great.
You're a senator, and as our viewers just saw, in Dutchess, Putnam County, just a little south of us. But
That's right.
Pretty much close to the Capital District on one hand. I mean,
right.
people do commute down there. So.
Yes, and I'm one of them.
You go home every night?
Just about. I stay up here if we have meetings that go late or if there's special functions. But for the most part, I try to get back to the district every night to go to various events and meetings. That does give me, sort of an advantage others don't have that live really far away. And I'm definitely grateful for that. It allows me to stay very connected to my district even during session.
But you can get the per diem for staying over, can't you?
I'd rather be meeting with my constituents. I'd rather be meeting with my constituents.
Like per diem gets you into trouble anyway.
Yeah.
It's an hour and a half commute. So
yeah, about an hour and a half. I live in Rhinebeck, so I'm fortunate I live at the northern edge of my district. So that allows me to get back at night and sleep in my own bed, see my wife. But also, I'll get up tomorrow morning. I have a 7:30 event down in Poughkeepsie. I'll go to that, and then I'll come up to session. So that's, it gives me that advantage.
I'm part of the Chabad community, the Chabad Lubavitch Hasidim. Yes, I am. And I said I'm the Chabad of Delmar. And, of course, actually people always joke that's like Coca-Cola. Wherever you go around the world, you'll see Chabad. But you have your Chabad representatives down there in Dutchess and Putnam County, too.
Yes, we do. Rabbi Hecht, who I mentioned, is the rabbi in Rhinebeck, and would probably be your strongest representative in my region, I would say.
He's good over
here.
Now, you have 2 other synagogues or 3 other synagogues in Poughkeepsie?
Well, my district, covers almost all of Dutchess plus half of Putnam, so I've never really counted up to see how many there are, but there are synagogues outside of Poughkeepsie, that's for sure. I don't know how many there are total, but I have never really counted, but I would say there would be 5 to 6 total throughout the district.
Okay. I'm going to be expanding my website into Dutchess County. So
yeah, you should, absolutely.
Right. Dutchess, Ulster, and Sullivan. I got to get the southern border.
You definitely should.
Right now I'm in 16 counties, but I'm going to do it.
I think you would have a big audience in my district.
I'm sure
I encourage you to come down.
We'll have to come and visit.
Yeah, come visit.
And you ran Gipson Design Group. And
yes, before I was elected to the Senate, I was a business owner, a small company called Gipson Design Group. It was based in Rhinebeck, my town, and we specialized in designing scenery for live shows and events, custom exhibits, displays, everything connected to theatrical entertainment, theatrical branding. That's what my background is. I have 2 degrees in theatrical scenic design, and that's really the profession that got me to New York State in the first place about 20 years ago.
It's interesting. I mean, we've had actually 100 shows and assemblymen and senators, many of them. But of course, I don't even know the number. Mark's our political man. That most of them are lawyers. So it's interesting that you feel you come with a different perspective into the Senate because lawyers are, let's make laws, and maybe you're a businessman. Hey, I know the tax situation. I know what it means to hire people. So these guys are just, senators, assemblymen are just, I know how to make a law. I'll make another few laws, but they don't feel maybe, I think, the impact on the common man where, hey, I'm a businessman and I know what it means to add a tax on and I'm trying to run a business.
Right.
And all these things. So you feel you come from a different perspective compared to maybe your fellow colleagues
Absolutely.
in the Senate.
Well, look, there's no shortage of lawyers up here in Albany. There's plenty of people to help you craft a law. The goal is to craft a good law, to craft a good law that's actually based on helping the people that are dealing with the world as it is now, not as it was 30 years ago, which is all too often what continues to happen up here. I'm a fresh voice. I had a business. I was frustrated with the high cost of doing business here in New York State. Businesses are overtaxed. They're underrepresented, especially the small business man and woman do not get the respect that they need from New York State. They don't get the types of incentives that we should be giving them to encourage them to stay in business, to encourage them to grow and prosper. Look, I was so frustrated I stopped my business and ran for the state Senate. That's how frustrated I was. Many businesses are so frustrated they just quit and leave the state. So we have to stop doing that, and we need more people with a real grip on what it's like to be in business today, to run for office. I also come from a creative background, so I feel like that gives me an advantage that others don't have up here. I look at things from a different perspective, a creative perspective. In my line of work, it was essential that I be able to sit down with a group of people, discuss with them what their ideas were about what they want to do, and how much money they have to spend to do it, and the timeline they want to get it done in, and work with that group to try to find the best way to get their idea done. That meant that there had to be compromises, negotiations, an ability to listen to others, and to find ways to work towards a common goal together. And really, that's what an effective representative does in state government, in all government, really. And as my short stint on the village board in Rhinebeck proved, I have the ability to do that, and I've just taken those skills to the state senate.
So let me ask you, let me just tell the audience, you were born and raised in Tyler, Texas.
That's right.
And you don't have a southern accent, and that's really remarkable.
Not on most days.
Unless you get mad, maybe? Does it come out when you get mad?
My staff tells me it comes out from time to time, depending on what's going on.
From time to time?
Yeah,
okay.
right.
Anyway, you graduated from Texas Tech with a bachelor's in BFA, Fine Arts.
It was a BFA in
Bachelor
Fine
of
Arts.
Fine Arts in '87, Penn State. Then you moved a little north.
Yep.
And then you got a Master's of Fine Arts in '91.
That's right.
How old are you now?
I'm 51.
51, okay.
Yeah.
And then you worked as a landscaper, dishwasher, cook, carpenter, painter, cafeteria manager, and scenic and lighting designer.
That's true,
Then
those things.
Then you moved to Westchester, White Plains.
Yes, well, that career list you just mentioned goes, pretty far back, all the way, through college, all the way up to what got me to New York, and even while I was in New York.
Now, why did you settle in Rhinebeck? You were in Pennsylvania, you were in Texas, you were you were in White Plains, a major urban area in the state, and then you moved to small Rhinebeck and to start a business. And I'm just like, why? What was the right mix in Rhinebeck that? I mean, I know it's an artsy community.
Right.
So maybe that's what it was, But I'm not sure. I mean, there's other artsy communities, Woodstock and others. But
well, when I first moved to New York, I was in New York City, like everyone. When they come to New York, they try to experience the city. I had to do that by virtue of my profession. That's where the work was. That's how you get in the business.
Right.
I spent time there, met my wife there. And then as we decided to get married, it became clear that that we wanted sort of a different lifestyle that was more family-oriented, more community-oriented, and we began to move up north. My wife is from Westchester originally, so we eventually settled in Westchester and spent quite a bit of time there while I was commuting to the city. And then when I decided to start my own business, that's when it became clear to us that we no longer needed to have that connection to the city. So we moved further up north, where it's a little more affordable to start a business, a little more affordable to live. And then we settled in Rhinebeck because we wanted to get involved in a community and be part of something where we felt like we could make a difference. And that eventually led me to run for local office in Rhinebeck, where I was elected to 2 terms as a village trustee. And really, that's what allowed me to run for the state senate.
Is the village board Democratic or is it Republican?
Oh, it goes back and forth.
It does.
Every year. It's a mixture. It was a mixture while I was there. It's a mixture now. I think it always has been.
Does political ideology work differently on a village level than running for state senate?
I would say definitely yes.
Is there is it more of like a beauty contest or a personality contest on the village level?
Well, I think probably the smaller, the municipality and the smaller the electoral base, the more it becomes just about personality and just what you want to do and less about party. Certainly the larger the office, state senate on up, I think, the politics begin to matter more, at least to the voters. And I think even as a candidate, you're required to deal with the politics more than you are at a local level. But at the end of the day, both jobs are about getting things done.
Well, then how frustrated are you that there's the IDC? I mean, even if the IDC went over to the regular Democrats, I mean, you still wouldn't be in the majority because you have Simcha Felder over with the Republicans, and you have an empty seat, which is Eric Adams' seat, vacant. So you still wouldn't be in the majority, but it would be closer. But I'm just wondering, like, how frustrated are you about this?
Well, I was just real happy to be elected, and I'm very fortunate to be here serving as a state senator, being able to represent my community, being able to represent my district. Well, and we've managed to get a lot of things done in the 18 months that I've had a chance to be in office, right. And certainly being in the majority is something we would certainly love to be, but we found that we can be quite effective where we are now. At the end of the day, it's really just about forming relationships with colleagues on both sides of the aisle.
Well, that's what the IDC says.
Right.
So it's a matter of forming relationships, and that's why they became the IDC.
Right.
So are you frustrated that they're out there, or would you consider joining them at some point?
I don't think that's an option that's on the table. I'm just focused on.
Your leader would be happy to hear that. Okay.
Yeah, that's. I just don't think that's an option on the table. I think their days are numbered anyway. I was elected as a Democrat. My constituents expected me to serve as a Democrat, and that's what I am. And but after elections are over, the reality is that it's time to get work done for your base, no matter what party they're in. And I've tried very hard to represent all my constituents and not let party politics get in the way. And that's the kind of senator I'll always be.
Well, and your predecessor was like that also.
That's true.
But he got caught up on one big issue, which the conservatives didn't like. Which
Well, I
was
don't know.
supporting what? So because they ran, you won by 2,100 votes, but the conservative candidate got like 15,000. So if your predecessor, Steve Saland, who was Jewish, had both lines like he normally did, he would be reelected. So
Well,
because of the one issue, it split.
You're
the
making
vote.
some big assumptions there. I mean, you're making some big assumptions.
Well,
That certainly was a huge factor, but it wasn't the only factor. I don't think it's fair to judge my predecessor. He was in office for 30 plus years, and I don't think it's fair to judge him by one issue. And I think, unfortunately, all too often, he gets criticized for that one vote, or thanked for that one vote, when clearly he did a lot of good things that 30 years as well. So I think it's always unfortunate when he's brought up that it's always about the marriage equality issue. I think it's unfair to judge any elected official by one vote. I think
So
you
you
have to
didn't
look at
make
them
it-
in the scope of all that they've done.
so you didn't make it an issue in the campaign.
I did not make it an issue because I support marriage equality.
That's
so
right.
I thanked him for it, and was supporting it before he voted for it, and supported after he voted for it, and that was never an issue. I never ran for office for or against my opponent. I knew almost nothing about him when I decided to run for office. I ran for office because I was frustrated with the state of the existing climate for businesses in New York State, and as a homeowner, the state of high property taxes. And I was just frustrated that I had worked hard all my life, done all the right things, as many people living in my community have that are my age, and we seem to still be having trouble getting ahead, no matter how hard we work. And clearly, New York State has just not created an environment for the middle-class person like myself to succeed and survive. And I was frustrated that that wasn't happening, and so I was campaigning against the system, not any one elected official.
Okay.
One of the things that you talk about business, and it's another hot topic, like Mark would say, is fracking.
Yes.
I mean, they're up here in Albany, but I mean, I don't even know where the fracking. I know you're more south, obviously, with the, they always say southern tier. I don't know exactly if the fracking would be in your area or not, that's what I'm saying, but surely close to you, and the opposite idea would be, it would pollute the water, which would affect your area. So I don't know, how do you feel about fracking? I mean, you say business, pro-business, that's the argument. Well, there's going to be a lot more jobs. On the other hand,
Right.
I guess the other side of the argument is the pollution factor.
Well, we're not in the southern tier. That stops substantially further north from us. I think we do have a type of shale that possibly could be fracked at some point in time if they were creative enough to do it. My position on fracking, though, doesn't really matter geographically about where we all live and how close it would be to us. I have toured fracking sites in Pennsylvania. I did that during my campaign because I wanted to know what it was like, and I have talked to people on both sides of the issue. My position on fracking has been pretty clear all along. Once I discovered all the research about it and made a determination about how I felt about it. The process of fracking requires that these companies go and get 5 to 6 million gallons of water from a lake or a reservoir, a lake or a stream, somewhere in the general area, take that water and bring it back to the fracking site. Now that water is water that we could use to irrigate our crops, to wash our clothes, to bathe in, to drink. It's usable fresh water. And what they do in the fracking site is they immediately add toxic chemicals to it so that they can begin the fracking process. So the idea, the concept that fracking does not pollute water is just false. It's not true. It does pollute water. The whole process that they have to go through to actually be able to frack requires that they pollute 5 to 7 million gallons of water every time they frack a well. So that's established. That's a fact. All we're arguing about from this point on is how much more water, the polluted water that used to be clean water, is going to pollute when it goes into the ground. And I say, why allow anyone to pollute our water in the first place in any way, shape, or form before or after the fracking process? Why don't we try to be more creative to see if there's a way we can get that gas out of the ground without using our most precious resource to do it? So I challenge the oil and gas industry to use state-of-the-art technology to find a way to get the gas out without using our water to do it. I think that they're up to the challenge. I know that we sent a man to the moon way before there were ever iPads or iPods or handheld devices when I was a very young boy.
Velcro came out of the
Right.
space program.
And I know that we can do it now if we challenge our industry to do it, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Well, you also came out and called on to keep fracking waste out of New York. So after the fracking process, they were going to dump the waste here in our state, and you don't want that. Could you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, so after the fracking process is done, you have not only the water that you polluted in the process, but you're generating more as well, and you have to do something with this stuff because a lot of it comes back up out of the ground. So one of the big challenges that the fracking industry continually faces is what do we do with all this wastewater, which they know is contaminated and can't be used for anything except apparently to melt ice in the winter. Apparently it's very good at that. So there are places that are already allowing fracking waste to be used as de-icer. It's a horrible idea if you think about it. This water runs off into people's front yards, into playgrounds, into farmland. It's the last thing we want to be doing with wastewater.
Isn't the solution to pollution dilution?
Well, I don't think so. The solution to
And if you
pollution is
spread
don't
it out?
pollute.
Is it spread out so it's,
Well, it's toxic wastewater. That's the reason that they can't figure out what to do with it is because it's toxic. And so they're creative. Look, they'll let anybody that wants to take it and use it, they'll let them do it.
Right.
And apparently there is massive loopholes in our laws in New York State that allow this to be used as de-icer.
North Dakota's booming because they know, because they're allowing fracking.
Right.
And the state's not going to hell in a handbasket.
We know you have to think about this in a big picture. It's not just about the state. It's not just about any one state. There is a limited supply of fresh water on the planet. Everyone agrees on that. We get more when it rains.
Right.
We have no control over when that happens. Maybe you have some control, but I don't. Most people don't. And there's no automatic water truck coming to refill up the lakes and rivers and streams. So there's a limited supply. Other countries, even parts of our country, are already experiencing severe droughts. There are already some war conflicts that are beginning to start in other parts of the world because of the lack of water. We cannot survive without it. It is a national security issue. It's a state security issue. If North Dakota someday runs out of water, we're going to have some other state's going to have to help them. So that means some other states' resources are going to be tapped to help North Dakota.
Well, Canada.
Texas is already having major water shortages. California has major water shortages. We're not going to let those states go without water. We're going to have to help them. We have to protect our water. It's mankind's water. It's not North Dakota's water or New York's water.
Okay, on another issue, the SAFE Act, or some people say the Unsafe Act. You have people in your district wildly on both sides of the extremes of this issue. How did you vote on this? Was like your first vote when you came into the Senate.
It wasn't the first vote. People say that, but it was
Close.
a few weeks into the process. It was the first vote that got any press of any sort.
So did you say, because I spoke to a couple of other people who were freshmen, who said, this is all of a sudden a message of necessity comes down. What's the necessity? Why did I need to do?
Right.
Why did this need to be this way? Where it didn't, we didn't have hearings and we didn't go through the whole process. So tell me your views and your impressions coming into your first term and having an issue like this in your lap.
Well, I would certainly have preferred that it be done through the traditional means of getting a bill to the floor and that there not be a message of necessity. But that wasn't the choice I had.
Right,
I was like everyone else, asked to make a choice. We did have time to review the bill, so I did know what I was voting on. And what we immediately noticed was that there was a lot of really good things in the bill. About half the bill is devoted to giving our courts more leeway to help convict people who are convicted of crimes using a gun, protecting women, protecting victims of domestic violence, much stiffer penalties for drug dealers that are caught with guns. A lot of things in the law that actually don't even deal with guns to just make society safer in general.
Okay.
We thought those things were very good, especially the domestic violence component. We thought it was very important that we do everything we can to protect victims of domestic violence and curb the amount that's happening. That wasn't in the law before. This was an opportunity to make sure those things got into our statutes. There were some other things that we thought maybe could be improved. That if we had a chance to amend them, we would like to offer up some reasonable amendments. That wasn't an option we were given, So we had to take the good with the bad and support it because we didn't think that we would get another chance to get the good stuff on the floor. Now that it's done, I have always said that I'm open to reasonable amendments to it, and we continue to talk with people on both sides of the aisle about that.
Did you vote your conscience on this? Did you vote with the conference, or did you vote based on what your constituents told you?
No, it was a conscious vote. I mean, it was, you know, definitely I felt like there were some very good things in the law that protected women, that protected innocent victims, that put harsher sentences on drug dealers, that I felt like needed to be done. And I wasn't going to vote against those items. So, because that's how it would have been seen. So it was the right thing to do. We certainly were connected with how our district felt about it as well at the same time. But at the end of the day,
how does your district? Is it split? Is your
no, my district is you know, in general in favor of the vote that I took. I mean, you know,
okay.
it's a favorable vote by the numbers in the district. That doesn't mean that everybody agrees with it.
No. It means that you didn't put your finger up and figure out which way the wind was blowing. You just you know, knew what was important. But I'm just wondering what the feedback has been. Well, if you've had your Rifle and Pistol Association people coming in. I mean, you have a large hunting community, and I was just curious.
Well, you know, what we've noticed about all big issues that we voted on, not that we voted on that many, but anytime there is a bigger, statewide issue on the table, what we've noticed is that when you do decide to vote one way or the other, you almost always hear loudly and continually from the people that are unhappy with your vote. You almost never hear from the people that are happy with your vote.
Right.
so the safe fact was
sounds like the rabbinical
yeah,
business.
Right.
Over
Exactly.
Here.
Yeah. So the safe fact was no different. Of course, we've heard from people that would prefer that we not vote that way. Again, we've sat down with them, reviewed the bill, offered to work with them and make some amendments if we can. And I do think that over time some amendments will be made.
Okay. I got to ask you this question before time runs out. I drive the Taconic all the time. You probably drive the Taconic all the time. I love the Taconic Parkway. But there used to be 2 rest stops. One was a park and ride, and one was a place that you could stop off and buy some stuff.
Yep.
And I think pump gas even at one point. Now that one that's further down, which I think just misses your district line by a few miles or whatever, but the one further down by I-84 is becoming a Taste New York.
No, that's only maybe in the middle of my district, yeah.
Oh, is that the one that's further north by Todd Hill Road?
The Taste...
That's the one by Todd Hill Road?
Yeah, that's Taste New York.
That's Taste New York?
Yeah.
Okay, so the one further north. That's in the heart of your district. Okay.
Yeah, that's in the heart of my district.
So what do you think of what do you think of converting that into...
I think it's a great idea. I mean, what better place to showcase the great products that New York State offers than to people that are passing through the state on the Taconic, which is one of the most heavily traveled highways north to south. Well, it's not a highway, it's a parkway. But you'd think it was a highway on some days.
It's a freeway, which is what I like.
Yeah,
there's no tolls.
Right, it's a freeway. It is a great road. People love it. It's so scenic and easy to maneuver. You just have to watch out for the deer.
That's right.
But Taste New York going in there, I think, is a great use of that property, and so I'm excited about that.
Was your office consulted when this started, or were you just?
We were informed.
Did you just drive by one day and saw this?
No, we were informed, and we're hopefully we can be part of the grand opening of it. But we're grateful. We have a lot of great products that are made in our district that hopefully we can showcase there.
The Dyson Millbrook Winery.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just
a lot of wineries.
A lot of wineries, yes.
A lot of wineries.
And what else is going to be there besides the winery?
I'm not clear. I think there'll be dairy products like yogurt. I'm sure will be there.
Sure.
And I'm sure there'll be some milk products, probably some non-edible products as well. We also have some breweries in our district.
Right.
We have lots of agriculture in our district there, and so I think it'll be a lot of.
It's a big agricultural district.
Yeah, but there'll probably be honey. I'm sure there'll be honey.
No
homemade
gun
goods.
sales. No gun sales. No.
I doubt it.
Because that's made in New York too.
I doubt it, but there might be fishing supplies.
Okay.
Because we do have a lot of fishing in our area. There'll probably be some of that. Probably be some clothing.
All right.
Yeah, a lot.
So are you on the tourism committee?
I am.
You are. Okay.
I am.
So this will be. This fits in with that.
It fits in well, and tourism is a big part of our economy in the Hudson Valley, big part of it.
When you came into the Senate, and I've asked this of all freshmen who I've interviewed this year, did they tell you, did you get a committee assignment list and some of the more senior committees, you might say, finance committee or health committee that said, no, freshmen can't sit on that, and you know, here are some of the other committees that you can sit on?
No,
Did
no,
you?
not really. No.
Did you get the committee assignments you asked for?
Basically, yeah. You give them a list, and you work with leadership and try to, everybody can't get what they want because it just doesn't work like that. There's not enough committees to make that happen. But, you give them a list, your priorities, and for the most part, I got the committees that I was looking for, and I'm happy with my assignments. They'll probably change again next year. That's the way it usually works. But as a freshman coming in, I have no complaints.
No, are you chairing? Oh, I'm not chairing, I'm sorry, ranking on?
Yeah, I'm the ranking member on 2 committees, local government and agriculture, which are good fits for my district and a good place for me to start. So that's given me a way to connect immediately to my district, to work with local elected officials and to work with the agricultural community as well.
Well, the Taste of New York is agriculture.
Yes,
as
it
well,
is.
So that's
yes,
why.
it is.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm very happy with both of those assignments.
What would you say was your most significant measure or bill that you sponsored or that you tried to push, that you tried to get out this year?
Well, the year's not over yet.
No, I meant this term.
So
the year and a half,
the term's not over yet, but so far,
Yeah.
we've gotten a lot of great things done. But one of the bills that I'm most happy with is a bill that we got done that will turn one of our large watersheds. It's a large creek called Wappingers Creek. It runs through, I believe, 12 different municipalities in my district. And it is now going to be designated as an inland waterway, which is an important designation that requires legislation. And that's going to allow these individual communities to apply for federal and state grants that they currently could not apply for without this designation. And each of these communities has developed a plan to utilize that money to help redevelop the waterway that's currently there, which has not been kept up properly. A lot of erosion has happened. There's been some contamination over the years, and it's going to help our economy locally. So I'm very excited about that.
Okay. So is there anything else that you wanted to bring up that we didn't mention, that you wanted to promote or talk about? Or?
Well, I just appreciate you having me on. I appreciate you being interested in my seat down in Dutchess and Putnam County and the Hudson Valley. I think
I used to work for WEOK.
Oh, yeah?
I used to work for WGNY in Newburgh. I had a lot of WDST in Woodstock. I mean, WHUC in Hudson.
Right.
So I used to have that whole Hudson Valley. Governor Cuomo, Mario Cuomo, once said that as he was driving down to New York City along the Taconic, he would turn on different radio stations and hear me have the same story on each of the stations with a different lockout. Right. And he says, you're everywhere, you're ubiquitous. So it's like...
Well, I'll tell you, keep an
true.
eye on the Hudson Valley. I'll end on this note with a prediction that over the next few years, you're going to see the Hudson Valley become the real epicenter of where the power is in the state Senate. For a long time, it's been all about New York City, Long Island. But the new people with the new ideas, the new energy are all starting to show up in the Hudson Valley because it's where people from New York City are moving up eventually. It's where people are building families, taking a foothold in communities, really trying to make a difference. I'm a good example of that. You had George Latimer and Cecilia Katchik that were elected last year. So I think you're just going to see the Hudson Valley become the place where the new ideas, the new leadership is going to come from in the state Senate over the years.
You know, you say, we started the show with your commute an hour and a half, but New York City became so expensive. And really from maybe Rhinebeck, I don't know how long it would take you to get to mid-Manhattan. Are you seeing an influx maybe of people just saying, it's too expensive in New York City, and Rhinebeck I know is a beautiful area, and we'll just commute it down for an hour and a half.
Yeah, my whole district is growing leaps and bounds because of people from New York City moving out, wanting to start families, wanting to find a more affordable place, and just a more family-oriented quality of life, and that's really what the Hudson Valley is becoming. It's what's keeping our economy going. Those people are coming up and starting businesses of their own and are moving businesses that they have and getting involved in the communities. And that's important because you need new life to breathe in these communities that rely on community commitment. So it's a great place to live.
How well do you get along with the Dutchess County executive, who's a former assemblyman and former mayor of Tivoli? And
I get along with all of my local elected officials. I do everything I can to try to help them and to be partners with them, and that's important. You're there to work for them. Their constituents are my constituents, and vice versa, and we try to all work together.
Mark, we're out of time. Senator, you're a freshman senator, but we wish you our blessing. That's what I always give the blessing at the end. They should continue with great success in what you're doing, what you want to do, and your area should grow, and your authority should grow, and everything should be done with good health.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.